Hello everybody, I'm Conquering History Games and welcome back to part 2 of my National France campaign. I probably should start calling this the Kingdom of France campaign because that's where we're headed. But anyway, we're back, we're rebuilding the French Sudan, and you know, I wanted to check something here. Yeah, I need world tension at 50%, that's what I figured. It needs to be 50% no matter who. I think back in the day there used to be, I remember reading online, people would talk about, oh, you know, you just justify a war against somebody else in Africa, so you could just get some extra manpower as the French Republic, because manpower is kind of your biggest issue, although your industry is not great either. And actually, the manpower is better than it used to be. Yeah, I remember I used to hear about people who just, oh, you know, you go down here, you start making your way towards Somalia, you just start conquering the rest of Africa while you get ready for the rest. So, let's read about this Catholicism stuff, shall we? Critical to the stability of the regime, the Society of the Missionaries of Africa is a Catholic society of apostolic life, focusing on evangelism and... Can you tell I watch anime? And education in Africa. Founded in 1868 in Algiers, they quickly became an integral part of colonial society, adapting to native customs, adopting the native dress, all the while accompanying a tremendous amount of ethnographical and geographical research. They've been on the forefront of French initiatives on the continent, despite their sometimes strained relationship with an increasingly anti-clerical Republican government. They've become staunch advocates for the native populations, even accepting native priests, never hesitating to side with them against the colonial authorities if needed, and generally acting as a bridge between the two, earning them the affectionate nickname of White Fathers. Hey! And by the time you're watching this, I think it's going to be Father's Day. In the troubled times since the Revolution, they've become downright crucial to maintaining French authority over what is left of the empire, working tirelessly to maintain the peace between colonists, exiles, and natives, with the full support of the Marshal's conservative government. Our Lady of Africa, pray for us and the Muslims. I've actually got I might have it here. I have a DVD set that I actually never got around to finishing. I can't find it, but it's an anime I won. It was a prize at an event I was at, and I started watching with somebody, and then literally years ago, and then we didn't finish it. I really should, even though because it was a little entertaining. But the concept was like, I'm trying to remember. I think it was a nun. The main characters were a nun and a demon, and they worked together as like Catholicism cops, because the demon was a demon, but he was a good demon. Alright, things look like they're going well in Afghanistan. Got that encirclement there. Just gotta come, and it'll be over soon. The other Marshal retires. A career soldier and war hero, Marshal Franchet d'Esprit, announced his retirement today. He was the only other Marshal in the French military besides Pétain himself after the death of Joseph Joffre, and served as Pétain's right-hand man as Vice President of the Military Council in charge of military affairs when Marshal Pétain was too preoccupied with more stately business. Now that he is gone, the Marshal will have to choose who will serve as his replacement. His two protégés, both war heroes and up-and-coming officers, Charles de Gaulle or Henry Murdoch, are expected to be chosen to ascend to these highest of responsibilities. Such a promotion will be seen by many as appointing a successor for the Lion of Verdun, now an old man. Should Murdoch be appointed, it is likely he will be seen as Pétain's successor, and the move would be perceived as a clear endorsement of Murdoch's plans for sweeping military and political reform. Picking de Gaulle, a much younger man, closer to Pétain and a known sympathizer of the Marshal's unabashed distrust of parliamentarianism, would certainly be perceived as a way to hold on to power for some more time while better preparing his eventual heir to succeed him. Alternatively, Pétain could simply not appoint a successor to Franchet d'Esprit, guaranteeing that the hero of Verdun would once again take an active interest in military matters and centralize power around himself. So, as I've said before, there's more than one way to do this, to get de Gaulle in charge and then transition to the kingdom. But we're gonna do the way that's a little faster. So we're gonna say bring in de Gaulle, and we're not gonna. And I also said earlier we're not gonna be doing any gamey stuff. Actually, you know, now that I think about it, we haven't gotten the. I think it would have to be if I did the other way, but we should be. Yeah, we have unlocked the Ministry of War. Yeah, so you see how this is open, unless they patch something. It used to be that you could actually game the system by first researching one, then the other of the focuses. The Senussi activity is increasing in Chad. There's more camel trains running out. Uh-oh. What's going on there? Hope that does not a portent for anything that could be a problem. So because we're going to be going this particular route, we're going to be sort of short on political power for a while. As you can see, we're already barely go over half a point a day. It's going to get worse. Muslims all over the world, I'm just going to read this the one time. Muslims all over the world celebrate Eid al-Adha, the Feast of the Sacrifice, commemorating the willingness of the prophet Abraham to sacrifice his son Ishmael as a sign of obedience to God's command. Before the killing blow, however, God sent Archangel Jibril to substitute the son with a lamb to sacrifice instead. In remembrance of this intervention, each family ritually slaughters an animal and shares it in three, 1/3 going to the poor, 1/3 to relatives, 1/3 is kept and eaten. The faithful then go to their local mosque, and at the greeting of the Eid prayers and sermons, they exchange greetings, gifts, and visit one another. Considered the holiest holiday of the Muslim faith, it is always accompanied by large festivities and is sometimes even the occasion to lower confessional barriers, as some Muslims invite their non-Muslim neighbors and friends to partake in this uniquely Islamic celebration. Eid Mubarak. Yeah. Now you see, in the Christian religion, if I'm remembering correctly, it's not Ishmael who is the one that almost gets sacrificed. It is Isaac instead, who was Ishmael's younger brother. Alright. Put down the bear. At 6 a.m. today, Jean-Jules Henri Moereich was arrested on charges of offense towards the chief of state, conspiracy, and treason. Conspiracy against the state and treason. Knowing full well resisting arrest would only be inviting the regime to put him down on the spot, the bear went peacefully, immediately transferred to a secret location near Algiers. News of his arrest was triumphantly spread by the government to the media, feeding them a colorful story. This, are you kidding me? I don't think I've... Yeah, of the fool Moereich conspiring with communard agents to take down the Pétain government and invite the Reds in. While it's undeniable that some supporters of Moereich have ties to the more left-wing pre-war parties, and some of those arrested have confessed under strong interrogation techniques to be on the commune's payroll, the evidence of such collusion is light at best. Despite being offered a generous deal in exchange for his confession, Moereich himself so far refuses to admit doing anything wrong. What is that? Oh shoot, it's my phone alarm going off in the other room. I'll be right back. Okay, the beacon of professionalism known as Conquering History Games is back now. Let's see. Despite being offered a generous deal in exchange for his confession, Moereich himself so far refuses to admit doing anything wrong. Surprisingly, many are openly doubting the official story. Arresting such a popular war hero is not going well, even amongst strong supporters of the regime, particularly veterans who remember very well the heroic defense of Arras. And even within the army, many who would have been at worst apathetic without repressing the democratic movement are now outraged that the government would go so far. In any case, no! Repression's only good when you're repressing people I don't like! In any case, what Pétain feared happened. Henri Moereich is now a martyr. Open contestation from the army is unprecedented, and many within the government are starting to panic and advise a balanced approach, doubling down on the repression, going after those now protesting against Moereich's arrest, while at the same time pulling back somewhat, transfer Moereich out of hiding, and give him a public trial. The sooner this is over, the better. So we're now going to get a new Ministry of Interior, that being Georges Lemarand, which is going to slightly help my daily political power gain, so that's good. I'm still not going to take these two. I think it's going to work out better in the long run. But you know, with the French, I cannot believe that the French would ever bring up charges on somebody that were not 100% verifiable. It would never ever happen. I'm talking about the Dreyfus affair. So, a street fight between Algeria. You know, I want to one day pick up that book, you know, Dreyfus, A Family Affair, because I hear it's quite good. I'm going to look up right now how much it costs. But anyway, Early last night, violence suddenly rose in the streets of Constantine. Okay, so some of this stuff I can kind of skim, basically. So, early last night, violence suddenly arose in the streets of Constantine. The police report stated that some militants of the Action Alger Party quite randomly encountered members of the underground ENA while they were seated at a small restaurant. Details of the start of the fight are then unclear. The fight of minor importance. It reveals tensions between the two main Algerian nationalist parties. The ENA is a syndicalist party founded in Paris by Missal Hadj, forbidden in Algeria and radically opposed to the current French rule. The Action Alger, however, is legal, and its leader believes in assimilation into Greater France and calls for greater traditional autonomy. Based on the ideas of Action Français, adapting integralism to an Algerian context. Enemy public numero un. So he was getting transferred. Masked armed men in civilian clothes swarmed the convoy to free the bear. Wanting to stay discreet, the escort had been kept to a minimum and were swiftly dealt with. Those attempting to resist shot dead. Moereich escorted to a car. The convoy set on fire, all in the span of less than 5 minutes. The prisoner was just as surprised as his escort this was happening, but clearly someone coordinated this attack from the inside. A fake itinerary had been disseminated. Intelligence agents and a decoy convoy had been organized. So yeah, there definitely was an inside job. Whoever leaked the information must have been either very well connected or is very high up in the chain of command. It shows our people the democratic movement has very influential friends. The few advisors still advocating for moderation when dealing with the democratic camp have been thoroughly disgraced, with some even under heavy suspicion of being Moereich sympathizers, and those advocating for harsher repression now have the marshal's ear. How could this happen? It's so upsetting. The French attack Zawai. Oh, hey, look, it's a little cameo from our thumbnail. And a brazen move aimed at stopping Zanussi influence amongst our subjects. We have sent a detachment of the French army deep into the Sahara to raid their oases. Supported with modern rifles and air support, their HOI4 should no chance at stopping us, but they were able to harass the French columns before retreating back into the desert. And don't come back! So we lost 3 men, 3 rifles, and 3 support equipment. Well, that should be the last of our troubles in Africa, I think. Yeah. I don't think we're ever going to have a problem again. Pius XII has become our new pope. Alright, we've rebuilt the French Sudan. So, yeah, we actually can't do anything else here, and we have a couple of different things that we could do. We have the 3 ministries of basically land, air, and sea that we can work on, all of which are going to give us daily experience gain, which is nice, but I really, really just want to slam home to the Shah de Rapsha as quickly as possible, so it's time to go Ministry of War. How's this going? 90 days to go, so 90 days, we're right at the start of April. I think... wait, 90 days, that's April, May, June. So July 1st, before we celebrate the Fête d'Oration, we should be able to be done with the Trans-Sahara Railway Phase 1. Oh, look, the little ministers have all been updated. That's nice. Look at little Charles. Little Charles there. Yeah, that's good. So let's keep saving it up, A post-truth society. The regime has always had a strong hold on the media, and on many occasions in the past decades, opponents of the regime have found their dirty little secrets, real or fabricated, plastered all over the daily newspapers. When political pressure or intimidation do not work, blackmail and social shaming generally did the trick. However, this treatment was reserved for civilians, as the government and intelligence services were careful to preserve the reputation of the armed forces, dissenters generally being sent on assignment in the middle of the Sahara, where their concerns wouldn't bother anyone. However, with Moereich's arrest shocking many, it's been decided that the large amount of information collected over the years by the intelligence services on soldiers and officers alike would be put to good use. The latest victim of such attempted blackmail is Admiral Lucien Lassaze, a known supporter of Moereich and well-liked, successful, and above all, morally irreproachable officer. It's probably supposed to have another there to be more correct. The man has refused to back down when approached by our agents and denies any of the accusations lobbied against him. As such, these shocking revelations will appear in an afternoon special edition in all newspapers. In fact, mysteriously, all those who have publicly stated their support for Moereich seem to have been cursed to have their most private secrets revealed, which could, of course, severely hinder their careers and might just spurts of anger, spurn them to resign in disgrace. Should have picked the wrong side, Lasaze. Well, let's see what Lasaze looked like, because, you know, we got to have those portraits. So this is Lasaze. Oh, heterochromatic eyes. Interesting. Wow, what is this Greek goddess here? Is that Jean de Cou just naked? She's making a face like she is. Just say, that's right. There's nudity in Hearts of Iron 4 now. There was no stopping it. We're still really short on the support equipment, and this is getting annoying in a hurry. For me, anyway. So this is going to take 108 days to make 55 support equipment. Really? We are using the camels, right? Let me double check that. Okay. Just wanted to be sure. Alright, let's work on, yeah, cool. Good thing I formed the department before I wouldn't be allowed to anymore. Let's get our economy civilian thing going. Yeah. Becoming a spy master, that'll be really good. That'll be essential, actually. Yeah. We'll do that. Dun, 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 dun. The new affaire des fichiers. It seems that despite our extensive control over the nation's media, some officers have managed to... Whoa! What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Okay, so this is a writer. He's one of the founders of Action Française, who just died, Jacques Bainville. Born in 1879, renowned historian, journalist. He was a staunch Republican family. He turned to monarchism not out of nostalgia, but out of reflection and comparison, considering the Republic to be unstable, fickle, and fundamentally incapable to compete with a stable and united Germany. A prolific writer, he ceaselessly exalted the French monarchy in his historical works and contributed to many newspapers. Simultaneously, literary critic and financial analyst. Fleeing to Algeria as the revolution broke out, he wrote in the chaotic aftermath a short book that quickly became immensely popular. Titled The Political Consequences of Peace, Bainville exposes his thoughts on the peace treaty between the CGT and the Germans, stating that just like the Republic is the daughter of Bismarck, engineered to weaken France, the Commune is the daughter of Wilhelm II, created to rot France down to her very roots, so that she might eventually be turned into little more than a vassal state in an inevitable coming war. This thesis has become one of the pillars of the rhetoric of the AF, who tirelessly advocate for the fall of one daughter of the Bush so that France might be able to take on the other. Many in our nation are sensible to this kind of talk, as anti-German sentiment has certainly not subsided one bit among exiles, and Bainville's funeral procession was followed by thousands of mourners with political companions, fellow writers, and academicians, and even members of the government attending his funeral mass. The Lion of Verdun himself put out a statement honoring the life and works of the historian, now seen as a prophet by many. Und grand homme. I was getting that feeling recently reading The Isles by Norman Davis. Well, let me read this event, and I'll talk about prophecy in a second. It seems that despite our extensive control over the nation's media, some officers have managed to find out the truth about the recent wave of scandals hitting Moereich's sympathizers, spread the word about our extensive information-gathering networks, and printed out leaflets handed out in barracks and officers' messes alike, denouncing the regime and our attempts to prevent officers from speaking their minds. Admiral Lasaze has been made into a new martyr for the Democratic camp, and though he retired in the wake of the scandal, it seems he is now in direct contact with Moereich's partisans. Although this drastically hinders our plans to deal with dissent among the armed forces with some subtlety, there are far more worrying things. Not only have we lost whatever trust officers still put in the regime, but the leaflets currently spreading like wildfire contain confidential documents concerning the fabrication of the various scandals, implicating in this defamation campaign high-ranking officers as well as many within the administration and the government. There's only one possible conclusion. There's a mole among us. breathe and move on. And we need to catch her to prevent more leaks. I want the Secret Service on this case right away. Deep breaths, deep breaths. It's just 2 words. Among Us is a phrase. It's been around for a long time. So, what was I saying about prophecy? And the Isles. Yeah, so the Isles by Norman Davis. So there's a conclusion. Oh, yeah, this is basically joining the Economic Development Council. We're going to invest a little bit here, and then we're going to get some help back. But he wrote that book. Actually, I should say the book was published, so really he wrote it earlier, in 1999. Get them to assist with our economy, I think. Actually, no. Construction engineers would be helpful. Yeah, so for the next year, we'll get 10% construction speed. And I think every year we're going to get something new. So, anyway, he was talking about the United Kingdom's role in the European Union. And he's essentially, okay, burnt out village, armored car patrols, got raided after them. I'm going to keep it paused now so I can finish this story. So he's just talking about how he was basically predicting Brexit. And I'm not going to say how I feel about Brexit or not. I'm just going to kind of summarize what Norman Davies was saying. If you've heard that name before, Norman Davies is the guy who wrote Europe, which is that huge, thick book about Europe. Well, the Isles is just about, the Isles, and it's just as thick. It's very, very dense. Anyway, so what he was basically predicting was that because of the collective national psychology of the United Kingdom, which doesn't need to be a United Kingdom anymore in his personal assessment of things, they were going to eventually break off from the EU in pursuance of, well, in what they feel is self-interest, but also because they were increasingly swinging more to a relationship with the United States of America, this relationship instead of this relationship. And to make a long story short, he felt that was not going to be good for the Union of Britain, the United Kingdom. It's because I'm looking at Union of Britain right here. The United Kingdom confirmed communists today. And then what was going to happen is that, and these are his words, not mine. What was then going to basically happen is that Scotland was not going to be happy with that, leaving the European Union. And then Scotland was going to look at Ireland and go, you know what, Ireland isn't in the United Kingdom, and they've been on their own for a while, and they're doing pretty good. So we're going to probably just leave and rejoin the European Union. And then Northern Ireland, he calls it an artificial state. He actually uses very strong words. He says, always has been, always will be. Artificial state, Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is going to get pushed out when the United Kingdom leaves Europe, and it's not really going to be able to function on its own, so it's going to end up in the Republic one way or the other. Then Wales is going to, after that, start looking around and going, I think the party's over and it's time to leave, and they're going to eventually figure out breaking out. Then there's going to form the Republic of England, and eventually England will be reformed into a republic, and he's very optimistic about that, actually, about the Republic of England, because he kind of derides the United Kingdom a fair amount. Like, there's a couple parts where he's pulling quotes from people who were like used to live in other countries and now they're living in London or wherever, and they're just praising the United Kingdom, and he goes, a little starry-eyed. But he wrote that in 1999, and the United Kingdom has since left the European Union. He didn't provide a timetable, but he did say that this is going to be long-term stuff, so let's see what happens. Let's see if things end up going down that way. Again, I'm not saying how I feel about it anyway. I just thought it was really interesting. Because, whenever it is interesting to me to see historians make predictions on the directions things will go, whether it is right or wrong. So, for example, Francis Fukuyama, you probably heard of that guy. He's the one who wrote the End of History. I always like to laugh at that guy because he wrote a follow-up essay, like wait, hold on, because he wrote the original one after the end of the Cold War. Well, here's the point. Many years go by, he writes a follow-up piece to it, explaining how, oh, I know I was wrong about things, but actually I wasn't, because, and then he postulates a few more theories about the direction human history is going. But there's a section where he talks about the Arabic people will never want democracy. They're going to be happy in their current forms of government forever, and they will never, ever, 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 ever want to be democratic. And then a month later, the Arab Spring kicks off. So anyway, slave caravan. I was like, we'll talk about egg on your face. The story has reached the headlines across the nation. Our brave soldiers coming from the grisly scene of the village, but steeling themselves for a desert chase. Flying across the desert, racing against time as the sandstorm steadily approached their position. The patrol eventually managed to find the caravan as it fled across the desert. Outgunned but not without heart, the tribal raiders fought viciously, but our boys prevailed in their righteous fight. One of the raiders was captured alive and divulged the location of the place where he was to beat another raider party before turning into the Sahara. After seeing to the wounded in the burnt village, our patrol drove north and managed to set up an ambush upon the second caravan. Altogether, over 40 slaves were saved from captivity and have begun to spread the tale of their liberators' bravery in protecting them. This is sure to bring goodwill to our government for the local people. Hail, breaker of chains! So that helps with the compliance quite a bit. Also political power and stability. Very, very nice. Les Barrettes. The constitutional laws and the military code law both prevent the French armed forces, often called La Grande Muette, the Great Mute, to go on strike. But it seems that following the La Cèze affair and the subsequent revelations leaked to soldiers, officers, and eventually the general public, people are outraged, ignore their principles, and are walking down the streets to protest. Protests are banned for active duty soldiers. The official version of events of these officers is simply parading, a term most opposition journalists underground are miraculously still being openly published are now using ironically to designate the protests. The parades have been going on for days now. It's time we choose how to deal with the situation. Maybe it'll calm down eventually? So this hurts the paternal autocrats, and we're going to get the national spirit, Les Barrettes, which is going to hurt our stability and weekly war support constantly, and it's going to erode our political power and party support. So this is where the bad times start for us. We got to do something about these parades. Okay. So while I still have the power, I think we need to spend this on our spy master. Ooh, yeah. Got it. Okay, so that's it. We're pretty much done now, except for getting a little more anti-partisanship. But we're pretty much done with that. Collapse of the United Baltic Duchy. Nice. So there's Riga. Hey, Hayasaka's here as Helmuth Stigman. I did a live stream campaign as her, by the way. It was fun. Check that out. Whoop. That's the maid from the maid/student from Cayuga, Love is War. Which I watched the subbed version of that. I didn't watch the entire show. I kind of would just used to throw it on because it's just basically sketch comedy. But I've seen clips of the dubs, and it's not full blown. What's that one? The Ghost something. That one Ghost show. It's not completely that level of completely crazy, but it just seemed like it's very meta dubbing. It's almost like an abridged series. The prophet of Irba. In Irba, a small city in Chad, a man started calling himself a new prophet. First, he encouraged the locals to kill their cattle to prevent them from transforming into lions, panthers, and vultures. Then he told them that they had to stop paying their taxes and throw away their French money. Finally, he announced that white people were leaving the country. The governor of the nearby city of Biltine had already been driven out by natives, and that it was their duty to kill all whites left to finally live free. To help them fulfill this mission from Allah, the dead would even come back to life and swarm the French garrisons. Not that they had anything to fear. According to the prophet, the guns of the Frenchmen now only fired water. Few were truly convinced, but the brewing resentment of the people of Chad only needed the tiniest spark. A small insurgency broke out under the leadership of the madman. A returning patrol was swarmed and massacred, and soon the local garrison was under siege. Order was quickly restored and the madman publicly executed, but the whole strange affair is a warning. The situation far from Algiers is more than volatile. At least now they know our guns still fire bullets. So yeah, resistance just spiked there. Not fun, not good. But in 12 days we're going to have another agent here. Yeah, we'll be okay. And we've got better light tanks now. So So let's come over here, get that, very nice. Did we just get some steel back? Odd. So we're going to wait until we have our research bonuses before we start working on this. And now in terms of land doctrine, I need to figure out what I want to do. And I think we're going to go encirclement, a bit more straight up organization. We're probably going to do battle of encirclement because I'm going to be mixing them in with my infantry. Armored car, Moereich, yeah, organization, recovery rates. Yeah, I think organization plus 10. Organization plus 3. Actually, I think... I'll have to think about it, but we're going mobile warfare either way. So let's get started on that. Because then I think we're gonna get some research bonuses here in a minute or something. But yeah, we're gonna just push down here very quickly. So we're gonna get a straight up 10% increase to our armor research time here, and then down here we'll get 275% research bonuses. Kind of wish they were 100% research bonuses, but you got to play the hand you were dealt. That's it. And then once we're done with that, by the time we're there, the politique des abords should be open. So let's do that. And 18 more days. We can start phase 2. Hopefully I don't lose political power by then. Actually, what I could do, if there's an event pop up, I could just not click it until this is done. So I'll try to remember to do that. That's it for today. I'm Conquering History Games, and in the next episode, we're going to hopefully start Trans-Saharan Construction Phase 2, because again, the sooner I do this, the better. And we're going to have to start dealing with the effects of these parades. But what's cool is that we're getting daily army experience increases. And I probably should also think about what I want to do with some of these guys. You know, I actually have quite a lot of good generals to choose from, which is going to be nice. Anything I want to do with Pétain? I don't know if I want to bother with anything with Pétain. Let's grab that. Defensive doctrine. Okay, that's it. You all have yourselves a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.